All right, let's go and bring in Sue O'Connell. You see her every day offering political commentary, and she also co-hosts At Issue with me on the weekends. Sue, we know the Secret Service has been under a lot of scrutiny since the first attempt on Trump's life, but agents are getting praise for how they handled this second attempt. Still, though, this would-be gunman was able to get onto Trump's property with a gun and stay there for 12 hours. Does the agency need a complete overhaul after this?
You know, Corey, the great thing about being old is that I don't have to do new research. I can just look back to 2015 when there was a congressional committee. They issued a report on the Secret Service and called it, quote, an agency in crisis. And they had recommendations on how to improve the Secret Service then. Now, remember, at that time, starting in 2011, under President Barack Obama, there were a series of security breaches, from reality stars crashing a state dinner they weren't invited, to shots that were fired at the White House, to agents and prostitutes partying together in Colombia. So lawmakers then cited inadequate overtime pay, poor training, and poor internal culture. Those issues were never adequately addressed. And of course, today, Acting Director Ronald Rowe Jr., at least he has a place to start. So yes, it is in crisis.
All right, so let's talk about someone else facing threats, and that's election workers. The Associated Press has a story out today which details all the extra security being brought in to keep election workers safe ahead of November. We even told our viewers about the strange packages that had been sent or received by some election offices. What do you make of all this, and what does it say about the U.S. right now?
You know, Corey, I'm not sure what it says about the entire United States, about all the citizens, but I do say it does say something about some Trump supporters and some Republicans. They can't even agree that our election process is sound and safe. And if a candidate thinks there should be a recount or there was a problem, just recently we had a recount in Cambridge, there are legal steps that a candidate can take to litigate the complaint and come to a conclusion. Now, make no mistake about this, Trump and his campaign are planning on not accepting the results of the election if he loses. And these steps are not only protecting the election workers, but the complete election process. The election is not going to be over on Wednesday, November 6th, so buckle up.
All right, let's talk about Twitter, now known as X. It has become a hot button for, or a hot spot for election misinformation. Elon Musk, who owns the site, appears to be one of its biggest purveyors of things that simply are not true. Does the U.S. have any recourse against a privately owned company that appears to sometimes deliberately spread disinformation and is owned by someone who actually does business with the U.S. government? That's
a good second question, Corey. But to start at the top, I mean, did the U.S. do anything to stop Fox News from spreading mis and disinformation? No. Not at all. Remember, last year, Fox paid Dominion Voting Systems nearly $800 million so they wouldn't have to go to trial and they wouldn't have to talk about how the network promoted lies about the 2020 presidential election. That was a civil suit, right? So, look, the First Amendment protects a whole bunch of speech, but there is a chance that the Federal Trade Commission could demand that Elon Musk remove lies. And if he doesn't, they could sue him. Musk, of course, as you note, has defense business with the Pentagon. If they decided that he was unreliable, they could cancel his SpaceX and Starlink contracts. Again, that would all be litigation. So what can we do as citizens? Well, we could post less on X, buy fewer Teslas, but I'm not sure that's likely going to happen.
All right, Sue, as always, we appreciate the insight. Thank you very much. And, of course, we cover all the latest political headlines nationally and locally every Sunday here on NBC10 Boston. It all gets started at 10:30 with Meet the Press, moderated by Kristen Welker. And immediately after, join political reporter Matt Pritchard, Sue, and me for the latest episode of At Issue. We'll be right back.